If you have a desire to become a better version of yourself, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories about fitness and self improvement, which you can apply to your life today. So, for those of you that want to learn, to grow, to become what you desire most, I'm your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about how we can create an unstoppable routine to make this year the best year of your life so far. So, when we talk about routine, essentially what I mean by routine is a sequence of actions. That's all a routine is. Now, what I'm going to be talking about and sharing with you today is how you can make yours unstoppable. Now, all I mean by that is a routine that doesn't stop, it doesn't go like week on, week off, a routine that keeps going, a routine that helps you thrive, a routine that doesn't stop because of this, that, or something else. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredibly powerful thing. It's something that I've discovered throughout my own pursuit of constant improvement is the center of self-improvement is your routine. It's the center of all successful transformations that I've had with clients. It comes from the routine. What you're doing on a daily basis is going to impact your life. It's like there's a quote that says, the quality of our decisions determine the quality of your life. And it's the same thing with our routine. The quality of the actions that you're doing day in, day out will determine the quality of your life and where you become, and what you become, where you end up. So it really is. It's an incredibly powerful thing, your routine. So one thing I'd like to do to start off is think of your last year for me. Think of last year. How did it end? Did it end in the sense that you were like, wow, I had a really good year. I achieved what I set out to achieve. It was a valuable year in my life. Because time is one of our most limited assets. So we want to make good use of it. Okay, so think back to that. Think back in the last year. Was it a valuable year? How was your routine? How did it go? And you might be thinking, well, didn't do much. Probably not in a better position now than I was then. Well, this is going to change that. By creating an unstoppable routine, that changes. Because so many people get too comfortable with just living in terms of their normal routine, but not the routine that they create, the routine that they are given. Because if you don't create a routine, you'll be assigned one. Now, I read that recently online. It's an incredible quote because essentially what it means is if you're not the own architect of your own routine in your own life, you'll be assigned one. Somebody else will create it for you. Guess what? Your job, they'll tell you what to do. Your parents will tell you what to do because you're not doing anything on top of that. No wonder. They're trying to help you. You can be the architect of your own life. It doesn't need to be what your partner says or what your parents say, what they want for you, what your job wants for you. What do you want to do? Whatever you want to become, you can create an unstoppable routine to help you get there. Because people have all these ambitions, right? People want to become better all the time. The law of attraction, right? For example, people, now there is concepts behind it, there's some science behind it, but a lot of people just think they can sit and think, oh, I want to become this, I'm going to become this. What's going to make you become this? You want to be successful in one way or another. What's going to make you do that? I'll tell you what's going to do that. The actions that you do every single day, those will dictate what you become. And those come from your routine because that's all routine is, a sequence of actions, which is followed consistently. So we think of brushing our teeth, for example. It's something we've been taught to do since we were babies, since we were young. We brush our teeth without a second thought. Imagine having a routine that's as easy as brushing your teeth. It's just second nature. It's unstoppable. It's just normal. It's part of your life. That's what I have. And that's what I'm going to share with you. How can you do that to help make this year the best one yet? So I hope you've had a wee think about that. How was last year? How did it go? Maybe it went well. Maybe it went amazing. What could you do to make it better? If it didn't go well, we're going to talk about how we can make it better. And it all comes from this routine. We're going to make it unstoppable. So one thing about an unstoppable routine is, as I've already mentioned, it doesn't stop depending on how you feel. So many individuals, including myself, they act based on how they feel. Okay, this is something I've been learning for years how to get better at. Because your true high performers in life, your true high achievers, they act regardless of their emotions. They act regardless of how they feel. So you feel happy? Good. Do what you're meant to do. You feel sad? Tough. Do what you're meant to do. Because these are all, they're not constant. Okay, emotions pass. You should know this. Emotions pass all the time. There's a really good video of Tom Hanks, actually. You may have seen it on TikTok or on Instagram Reels or whatever. And he's sitting in and he's saying, you feel happy right now? This will pass. You feel sad right now? This too shall pass. You feel angry? This too shall pass. All of these emotions we feel will pass. So if you learn to act regardless of them, of how you feel, then they're not going to impact you as much. Because that's how people get stunted with their growth, because they let emotions take control. They let their emotions dictate their actions. We're going to create a routine that's so unstoppable that no matter how we feel, we get stuff done. That's what we want at the end of the day from that. Now, one thing as well that an unstoppable routine will do is it'll remove the guesswork. It'll remove, like, so many people go through life and think, oh, what am I doing this week? What am I doing today? I don't do that. I have a clear purpose to my weeks. I know what I'm going to do. And one of the reasons I know what I'm going to do is because I have something called non-negotiables. Now, this is something that you'll be able to implement if you don't have them already. A non-negotiable is essentially a habit. It is something that you do and it is non-negotiable. You do not negotiate with yourself based on your emotion. You don't think, right, I don't feel like doing this today. Like, for example, one of my non-negotiables is to go to the gym a minimum of 4 times per week. Now, sometimes I'll go 6 or 7 times, but I guarantee you one thing, I will never go less than 4 because I know the benefit it has in my life. I know how profound it is in my life. So I will make sure I go those 4 times at least. And I don't go, if I'm angry, guess what? I go to the gym. I'm sad, I'll go to the gym because it'll benefit me. The lucky thing with going to the gym is it benefits you if you're feeling happy, you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry. It'll benefit you. So again, that's a good way to act regardless of emotion is the gym because it helps us no matter how we feel. But going back to the non-negotiables, I have set non-negotiables in my life. A lot of high achievers will have non-negotiables in their life. Look at your life. What could you make a non-negotiable? One thing I look at with non-negotiables is I will think, right, where do I want to be? Now, I don't mean at the end of my life or in 10, 20 years, whatever. The only one thing I want at the end of my life that I know for sure is I want to live with very minimal or no regrets. That's the one thing I want to make as much use of my time. I want to pursue constant improvement and make as much use of my time as possible. That's the only thing I want at the end of my life. All my other plans are maybe 6 months in advance, a year in advance. You don't need to be planning a 10-year plan. Nobody really has them, to be honest. Nobody follows them to a T. But make a plan of sort. Make something. What do you want? Do you want to look better? Do you want to feel better? Do you want to improve your mental health? Do you want to have a better position at your work? What do you want to be better at? Then make non-negotiables around it. I'll use the very useful and very easy subject of becoming stronger. Or sorry, we'll not use strong, but we'll say becoming fitter in the sense that you want to lose weight, become healthier and become fitter. Okay. Right. Well, how do we do that? So first of all, you understand what you have to do. Well, I have to lose weight. Okay. So to lose weight, I need to be in a calorie deficit. Let's make that a non-negotiable. And by a non-negotiable, I don't mean necessarily a daily one. I mean a weekly one. So on a weekly basis, you're in a calorie deficit, like throughout the whole week. Make that a non-negotiable. How are you going to do that? What are your objectives for that? I'm going to track my calorie intake. Amazing. Brilliant. There we go. Set a first non-negotiable. What else is going to help you do that? Well, maybe 7 hours of sleep per night. That might help. Let's make that a non-negotiable. What are your objectives for that? Well, I'll get in bed for 10 o'clock every night. There you go. Because again, it's very important. We don't just set non-negotiables in the sense that, okay, getting 7 hours of sleep, being in a calorie deficit. Set objectives in the sense that how are you going to do that? Because people get caught up in goal setting. They get so excited. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. But how are you going to do that? When somebody comes to me and they say, oh, I'm gonna lose loads of weight. I'm like, oh, it's brilliant. How are you going to do that? And they're like, oh, I'm not too sure. I'll be in a calorie deficit. All right, cool. Well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to structure your life and your weeks so you can do that? Non-negotiables. There's one thing. So again, that structures essentially my whole week. When I go on a Sunday to plan my week ahead, the very first thing that goes in my diary is my non-negotiables. So my resistance training, if it's meditation, if it's spending a set amount of time with a set person in my life, like my girlfriend, for example, that may be a non-negotiable. For those of you that are looking to really dial down on your relationship, maybe it needs to improve, there's another one. Make it a non-negotiable. Make it the first thing that goes in your diary every week. Because don't leave it to chance. Because when you leave it to chance and you just flow through your week with no intention and no purpose, no good comes from it. Maybe if you're very lucky. But if you plan ahead, then a set outcome will be achieved at the end of the week. You'll get your resistance training sessions in. You'll spend time with your loved ones. You'll read. You'll do whatever your other non-negotiables are. You'll have a better week. Better weeks, better months, better years. And at the end of this year, which you're going to make the best year yet, you'll look back and you think, wow, I made that a better year by implementing non-negotiables. So again, a really big one to bring in there. One thing with the non-negotiables to finish on is make sure that it's aligned with your goal. Don't just be making non-negotiables willy-nilly and throwing in 100 of them, right? I don't have any more than 6 or 7. But if you're starting off, have 2, have 3, have 1 for all I care, right? Have 1. You can always add to them, but make sure it's something that stays non-negotiable. It's not something that you achieve some weeks and some that you don't. It's something that you can achieve every single week because it is aligned with a greater purpose. For example, that you are so desperate to lose this weight that you need to stay in this calorie deficit. And guess what? You're way more likely to stick to this non-negotiable. So I hope that helped in the sense of the non-negotiables. Because one thing I spoke about already, I mentioned right at the start, is all of my clients, in fact, never mind my clients, anybody that's had a successful health and fitness transformation, look at their routine. It's maybe not impeccable, but it's incredible what they're doing in the sense that they're exercising regularly, they're controlling their nutrition, they're sleeping well, everything. And it's usually planned ahead of time. I plan on a Sunday. I use my Sunday to plan the whole week ahead. But again, I know my routine for the week ahead already. And with routine comes consistency. With consistency comes results. So again, really need to focus on that. The non-negotiables will help add structure to that. So you've actually got a routine, a sequence of actions, as we spoke about before. Now, a few things that I've already covered that I want to really dial down on with your routine is, first of all, we need to act without emotion, because weakness, any generally bad things in life, bad outcomes come from acting based purely on emotion. Anger, if we take anger for an example, when we act out of anger, very rarely does anything good come from it. So by controlling emotion and not acting out of emotion, you'll get better results. So make that part of your routine. That'll make your year so much better if you learn to control those emotions by only following your non-negotiables, following things you set out to do at the start of the week. The other thing with the non-negotiables is not only do we do them because of a clear purpose, but it also gives us purpose, not as a whole, but to our weeks. Because people who go through our whole week with clear intention and clear purpose get so much more from it. I get loads from my weeks because they're planned out. And it's planned with things that I need to do, but not only things I need to do, things I want to do. Okay? So unfortunately in life, there are things that we're going to have to do that we don't want to do. Things that don't make us feel great. But again, we act regardless of emotion, because that's when good things come. When we act regardless of emotion, we overcome these things. Okay? But again, leave time for things you enjoy. Make sure that it's not all just purely non-negotiables that you don't enjoy. Add in ones that you do, because otherwise you'll burn out, essentially, if there's no enjoyment in life. Because, I mean, that's what we're here for at the end of the day. We're here to become fulfilled, and the way we become fulfilled is what I believe through 2 things. Through discipline and doing things that we don't want to do, but things that we don't want to do for a greater purpose. So things that will leave us in a better position, and by filling the rest of our time with things that we love doing, things that we're passionate about. So make sure your week's filled with them. Your year will be a whole lot better from that. So one thing I'd like you to do, right? I'd like you to pick one of these things. So one thing I'd like you to pick is, if you do not have non-negotiables, if you've never made them before, let's pick 3. Pick 3 and apply them to your life. What is your goal? As I've spoken about before, is it to do with weight loss? Is it to do with the way you look and feel? Do you want to learn more? Great, make a non-negotiable around it. Implement that. I use my notes on my phone all the time in the sense of it plans out my whole week, the structure to my week. Use that. Write down your 3 non-negotiables, look at it on a Sunday, make sure they're part of your diary, make sure they're part of your plans for this week. That's something you can take from this episode and you can apply today. Go and do that. Another thing you can apply is just generally just deciding what you'll benefit from most. What is going to give you the most benefit in life? What are these things that you enjoy? What are these actions that, yes, you may not technically enjoy, but they'll give you the most from them? So that might be for you working out at the moment. That might not be something you enjoy, but it's something that you have to do to look and feel a certain way. Great. Realize that. Understand that. Because when you don't have a true understanding of these things, it's hard. It's hard to make our week structured in that sense. So there's another thing you can take from that. One thing, again, which I've spoke about, is planning your week ahead. I plan my week on a Sunday. Most of my clients, my online clients anyway, they plan their week on a Sunday. They'll complete their what we call weekly upgrades with me, but generally just the whole week is planned ahead on a Sunday. And guess what? You'll feel a hell of a lot better for it. Because as I've said already, if your weeks go well, your months go well, your year goes well. And we're made up of finite years on this planet, unfortunately. So by making the most of them, you're going to have a more fulfilling life with that. But it really, with routine, it's something that the reason I wanted to talk about it in today's episode is because it's something that I find deeply, deeply inspiring in the sense that when you have an unstoppable routine, it fulfills you so much. When your week is filled with things that you need to do and things that you love, it gives you so much more fulfillment in your life. Because people, as I've said, go through life just flowing through it. They have no routine. They have no intention. Maybe they go out in the weekend, right? All they do is they go to their job, they go home, they watch Netflix, they go out in the weekend. That's barely, that is a routine, but it's not an unstoppable one, and it's not going to get you where you want to be. So maybe that's where you have been. Maybe that's how your last year looked. That's all you done. Make a change to that. Make a change to that. Implement those non-negotiables. Plan your weeks ahead and make sure everything you're doing has a clear purpose. There's a clear structure to it. There's a reason for you doing these things. Because when times get difficult, that's when a purpose comes in. So let's say, for example, you're going to the gym, you're not enjoying it, and it really gets difficult. When you relate that back to your purpose, why are you in this room? Why are you working hard? Why are you doing this? That's what's going to push you through. Okay. And that's what's going to lead to you being able to act regardless of emotion. As I've said already, is a big trait of a high performer. Now, what I want to do is I want to talk about a quote a little bit. If you listened to the last episode, I left you with a quote. I want to delve a little bit deeper into this one. A quote that I love. It's by a guy called John C. Maxwell. I read one of his books last year. It was a daily reader. It's called the Maxwell Daily Reader, believe it or not. But yeah, really good quote. One that emphasizes everything we spoke about today. And it goes like this: You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret to your success is found in your daily routine. So again, if you look at your routine, what is your daily routine like? Is it going to make you more successful? Is it going to make you more fulfilled? If not, then change that. Take the things you've learned about in this podcast, take the non negotiables, create purpose around your week, make it clear, plan it ahead of time, plan it on a Sunday, apply these things, and believe me, you, at the end of this year, you'll be looking back and think, wow, so much better. And this will carry over for the rest of your life because you'll be able to plan your weeks. And as I said, your weeks go well, your months go well, your years go well, which at the end of the day is what we want. Now, one thing which I mentioned in the last episode, I cannot stress enough, is how grateful I am that you've sat and listened to this, because there is nothing more valuable than your time. Nothing more valuable. We have no more valuable asset than our time. So thank you for spending some of yours with me. If you have any questions about what I've spoke about in this podcast, drop me a DM. My Instagram is Conor Malone PT. I would love to speak to you, interact with the content. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed anything I spoke about, I ask one thing of you. I would love for you to apply it, to execute it, to help you in your own pursuit of constant improvement.